A distant foghorn groaned over Boston Harbor, as the gray dawn bled into South Boston's narrow streets that once whispered the name. Whitey Bulger, with a mix of fear and grudging admiration. For decades, James Joseph Whitey Bulger Jr., slight of build, but flint-eyed, strode these blocks like a self-crowned king. Part neighborhood Robin Hood, part ruthless mobster. His rise from poverty to underworld power would intoxicate a city. His fall from most wanted fugitive to shackled inmate would shatter the myth and expose the rot beneath it. This is the sweeping, sinister saga of how Whitey Bulger climbed to criminal royalty and tumbled at last into a prison cell. The story begins in the austere wartime projects of Southie in the 1940s. Young Jimmy Bulger, nicknamed Whitey for his shock of platinum blonde hair, tasted hardship early. Overcrowded tenements, a father disabled by a dockyard accident, and a neighborhood that treated toughness as legal tender. While his younger brother Billy poured himself into books, destined for politics, Whitey inhaled the swagger of corner toughs. By 14, he was boosting cars. By 16, he was in juvie. He learned fast that fists and fear opened doors education never would. Prison hardened him. In the 1950s, after a bank robbery spree stretched from Boston to Indianapolis, Bulger landed in the forbidding walls of Atlanta Penitentiary. There, he volunteered for the CIA's hush-hush MKUltra LSD experiments to shave time off his sentence, an early glimpse of a man willing to gamble with anything, including his own mind. Was transferred to Alcatraz. Bulger absorbed criminal craft like sponge soaking whiskey. When parole finally set him loose in 1965, he returned to Southie fluent in the ruthless dialect of big league crime. The neighborhood had changed. Rival gangs jockeyed for gambling rackets, loan sharking, and drugs. Bulger slipped into the Winter Hill Gang, an Irish-American outfit run by Howie Winter out of Somerville. With cold calculation, Whitey became its field commander. He smiled at grandmothers on Broadway in daylight, then meted out midnight beatings to debtors behind the Triple O's lounge. Intimidation was branded into his style. He kept an empty slot in every revolver cylinder. He joked, because sometimes I like to listen. By the mid-1970s, seismic opportunity presented itself. The Italian-dominated patriarcha crime family eyed Winter Hill territory. Bulger's answer was vicious. Efficient street ambushes, whispered bribes, and soon the Irish had carved breathing room. But Bulger played a deeper game. He secretly approached FBI agent John Connolly, another Southie son, and offered information on the patriarchas. To the Bureau, starved for wins against the Mafia, this was gold. To Bulger, it was armor. Informant status meant the FBI would ignore much of his own carnage. Connolly dazzled, became handler, accomplice, and fan. Files vanished. Tips flowed. Rivals were arrested, while Bulger expanded his empire of illegal gaming houses, cocaine pipelines, and extortion rackets from Quincy to Quincy Market. The dual life worked until it didn't. In 1981, Bulger orchestrated the murder of World Jai Ally owner Roger Wheeler in Tulsa. Oklahoma, fearing Wheeler would uncover a multi-million-dollar skimming scheme. 5 years later, businessman John Callahan, who knew too much, was found stuffed in a trunk at Miami International Airport. The killings revealed Bulger's reach, Boston violence echoing across the continent. And every time investigators closed in, a whispered alert from Connolly or another compromised agent sent Bulger slipping away. Within the FBI's own Boston office, a poisonous symbiosis flourished, justice blinded by hometown loyalty. It could not last forever. In 1994, a new federal task force, less sentimental and under mounting scrutiny, prepared a sweeping racketeering indictment. Connolly tipped Bulger on December 23rd. That night, with longtime girlfriend Catherine Grieg behind the wheel of a gray Cadillac, Whitey Bulger disappeared. He left his overcoats hanging, his cats roaming the condo, and the city buzzing like a hive after the Queen had flown. For 16 years, the ghost of Whitey Bulger haunted law enforcement. Sightings flickered from Louisiana swamps to London pubs. The FBI plastered his face, now deeply lined, on billboards in America's Most Wanted. Still, he evaded capture thanks, investigators later learned, to an almost monastic routine under an alias in Santa Monica, California. He read voraciously about history and crime, took seaside walks at dawn, kept stacks of cash and 30 guns hidden in the apartment walls, his private insurance. June 22, 2011. The luck cracked. A daytime PSA campaign aimed at Grieg's hair salon habits prompted a tip from a former neighbor. Agents staged undercover maintenance workers blocked 3rd Street exits, and in the drab hallway of the Princess Eugenia apartment complex ended the longest domestic manhunt of the era. Bulger raised his hands, smirking. Inside storage lockers, agents found $822,000 in vacuum-sealed bags. Knives wrapped in flannel, and enough firepower for a small insurgency. The myth had been living like a retired librarian barely half a mile from the Pacific. 8. The 2013 trial in Boston unfurled like dark theater. Jurors heard 30 associates recount 19 murder stranglings, stabbings, gunshots all, allegedly orchestrated or committed by Bulger. He sat silent, icy, only erupting when ex-partner Kevin Weeks called him a rat. Bulger barked, "Urea F. liar." For him, informing on the mafia was strategy, not betrayal, an odd moral code and a blood-soaked ledger. On August 12th, he was convicted on 31 counts, including racketeering and 11 killings. Judge Denise Casper sentenced the 84-year-old to 2 life terms plus 5 years fitting punishment, she said, for your unfathomable crimes. Yet even prison could not suppress the story's final violent beat, transferred frequently for security. Bulger arrived at USP Hazleton in West Virginia on October 29, 2018. Hours later, cameras failed, guards were short-staffed, and inmates beat the frail mobster with a padlock and a sock, gouging out his eyes, a brutal vendetta many believe tied to lingering mafia grudges. Whitey Bulger, once untouchable, died on a cell floor at age 89, his kingdom reduced to a stain on linoleum. In the end, his legacy is a cautionary dirge. He exploited community pride, FBI ambition, and the glamorization of outlaw lore to elevate himself. But every favor came with fear, every dollar with death. The city he claimed to protect now studies his tale in classrooms as a failure of institutional integrity. Families of victims denied closure for decades still balance relief with anger at the system that enabled him. So as the tides lap rhythmically at Boston Harbor and Southeast skyline glitters with new glass towers, the echo of Whitey Bulger's reign lingers, an unsettling reminder that power won through terror eventually implodes. From the cracked sidewalks of Old Colony Avenue to the fluorescent hush of a federal penitentiary, his journey charts a ruthless parabola. Meteoric ascent, harrowing apex, catastrophic plunge. And in that trajectory lies a timeless lesson for every would-be kingpin and every institution sworn to uphold the law. When corruption and ambition intertwine, even the mightiest will one day march from power to prison, trading whispered legend for a prisoner's number and ultimately an unmarked grave.